The MK Party's parliamentary leader, John Hlophe, will no longer serve on the Judicial Service Commission. His party withdrew his nomination with immediate effect, claiming that it can't be associated with what it claims as a fraudulent and improperly constituted body. The decision comes on the first day of the interviews to fill 21 vacancies in various courts. The High Court in Johannesburg this weekend dismissed his bid to interdict the sitting. This is after another court barred him from attending the proceedings. This is pending a review of his eligibility to sit on the JSC after he was impeached as a Western Cape judge president. He is accused of trying to influence Constitutional Court justices in a matter relating to former President Jacob Zuma. Let's now get some analysis with legal analyst Melusi Xulu. Melusi, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Let's start off here with that question around the composition of the JSC. A decision has been taken, of course, by the JSC that they will continue with the interviews, and after yesterday's decision by John Hlophe to resign, that they will still continue with those interviews. If we look at the Judicial Service Commission Act, subsection 3A or subsection 3B rather, it speaks about vacancies within the commission, that if there is a vacancy, it will not affect the validity of the proceedings or decisions by the commission.
Good morning to you, Aldrin, and to the viewers at home. Yes, if you also looked at the interview or the report that was made by the spokesperson of the JSC, Advocate Balo, they say that they will continue with the interviews. But the argument of the letter that was written by MK, they are focusing on section 178, subsection 1, paragraph H, that the composition must be that there are 6 members of the national parliament and 3 of them must be from the opposition party. But the interviews are continuing. My focus on this was on specifically paragraph 69 of the judgment that was made in the Western Cape High Court, where the judgment said the interviews can continue without Dr. John Hlophe. It's either he can be replaced or they can send someone to replace him, but they will continue. And then the final decision on his designation will be made on the hearing that is focusing on Part B, whether the Parliament did not use its discretion when he was appointed as a JSC.
Yeah, so of course that's what the court said in that interdict that was brought to interdict John Hlophe from sitting in the commission. Is there a case to be made that the JSC wouldn't be properly constituted just on the basis of a resignation?
Well, I think that's what the MK is trying to point out, that since he's not there, they will not be properly constituted, or the composition will not be proper. But I believe that what the JSC has said is they've not received any formal a letter from the speaker or from anyone, but so they will continue. So I believe that if maybe they continue, the question is who will bring the case against those interviews. Will MK once again bring another application? Because I believe that what will happen is they will look at the point that I believe it's the DA that say it's in the public interest that the interviews must continue so that, the judges can be chosen. So the question will be, constitutionally speaking, is it right for the interviews to continue when the judge has resigned as a member of a JSC? Maybe what should happen, maybe if that is a problem, he must be immediately replaced by someone that will be designated. I think maybe that will be the solution if it's an issue.
Yeah, and that, of course, would still need to go through Parliament. And as you've indicated, that the JSC is saying that they haven't received communication as yet around this resignation. Then the other part of this case is also what happens to Part B of the matter, which is still before the High Court in the Western Cape, and that is in relation to John Hlophe's eligibility to be a member of the JSC.
I'm of the view that it should continue, because here, Aldrin, we are entering uncharted waters. We've never, thought that there will be a judge will be impeached as a judge and then later on be a member of parliament and then be designated to be part of the JSC or the Judicial Services Commission. So I think for the sake of clarity and to see and test our constitution in regards to that issue I think it needs to be finalized so that at least, we know that should this happen in the future, we'll be able to be in the right position. Because the thing that I've noticed here, Aldrin, is that there's no specific section in the Constitution that says for you to qualify or to be disqualified to be a member of a JSE, JSC, these are the things that should happen. So what we are seeing is that the court said in Western Cape, actually, the National Assembly, they have a discretion whether a person can be appointed to be a member of a JSC or not. So I think it should continue so that those issues can be clarified.
Yeah, and also with that said as well, the argument that has been made by the DA, who was speaking to Helen Zille a bit earlier on as well, is the absence of the rules, which before, remember, the ANC's chief whip had argued that there is no rule that bars somebody like a John Hlophe from being nominated as a member of the JSC. Is how do you deal with that particular aspect when, again, the Constitution is silent on who can and who cannot become a member of the JSC? It just speaks about those members that are members of the opposition and political parties within the National Assembly can be nominated to become members of the JSC.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, there's no specific section, but, we do have some cases which are interesting, Aldrin, where although you don't have a specific a section or a provision in the Constitution, you just have to look at what the other provisions say. That's why I've mentioned before that Section 167, subsection 4, paragraph E of the Constitution, it says that the Constitutional Court may decide if the Parliament or the President fulfill their constitutional obligation. So the question here is, when the National Assembly designated Dr. John Hlophe, do they fulfill their constitutional obligation when there's an argument that he has been impeached? Because the issue is when they are focusing on the fact that if he's been impeached as a judge, he cannot be a member of a JSC. But MK and Dr. John Hlophe, they are specific to say he's no longer a judge. He's now a member of a National Assembly, and he's now acting as Dr. John Hlophe. So that is why I'm saying, we need to get what Part B will say about these issues so that at least it's clarified, and maybe the Constitution can also clarify further so that we no longer have the issue in future.
Is it possible to continue with this matter, though, even though the question around the eligibility of John Hlophe is no longer there in essence because he has now resigned from the JSC? How do you continue with this matter? Hi, Melusi, can you hear me? Melusi, okay, let's see if we can just quickly re-establish that line to Melusi Xulu, who's a legal analyst. Melusi, can you hear me now? Okay, we seem to have a problem there with that line to him. And this is, of course, following the decision by the leader, parliamentary leader of the MK party, Dr. John Hlophe, to resign as a member of the JSC, meaning that according to the Constitution, there should be 6 individuals from the National Assembly that are nominated to be part of the JSC, and he was one of those particular individuals. And Melusi, I was asking about, considering that the question around John Hlophe being a member of the JSC is no longer there, how would the courts then proceed with dealing with the question around eligibility for any other individual who may be nominated by political parties in the National Assembly?
I think as much as he's no longer there, Aldrin, the matter at least must continue for clarity purposes, because we might have the same situation in future where a judge has been impeached and then he's a member of the National Assembly, and then there will be issues about his eligibility. So I think as much as he has resigned, to be a member of a JSC, the matter should continue so that there's a clarity, because as I said, we are simply entering uncharted waters.
Yeah, uncharted waters. The argument also about what if the majority party or parties use their majority to almost decide on behalf of the opposition around who they can nominate. But thank you so much for your time. Melusi Xulu is a legal analyst.